We will start looking at the normal form, starting with the first normal form. Let's start by revisiting the rules of the first normal form, or what makes a table comply to the first normal form, or as we say, in first normal form. We need to have no multi-valued attributes, which is the same as no repeating group, which is again the same as saying every attribute is going to be an atomic attribute. And we also need to identify our primary key. If we achieve those things, then we can safely say that our table is in first normal form. Let's look at an example. Do we have any multi-valued attributes in this case? The answer is no, so there is no repeating group, no multi-valued attributes, which is again every attribute is atomic. What else do we need to do? We need to define the key. Now in this case we can come up with a composite key, which is the order ID and product ID, and this is going to be our key. Now when we define the key in this table, and since we don't have any multi-valued attributes, we can safely say that the table is now in the first normal form. So what's next? We need to take this to the second normal form. What is the second normal form? Let's see what are the rules of the second normal form. It says the second normal form is nothing but the first normal form, but we need to remove any partial dependency. So a partial dependency again is defined by when the non-key attributes are functionally dependent on a part but not all of the primary key. So every non-key attribute must be defined by the entire key, not by only a part of the primary key, to make the table in the second normal form. So let's look at the table that we just had. We don't need the data because we just need to define the dependencies in this case. What sort of partial dependencies do we have in this case? So if we look at order ID, we'll have order date, and we will have customer ID, we'll have customer name, so we will have many dependencies in here. So on order ID, we'll have order ID, customer name, customer address, depending on just one part of the key. And then we will have another partial dependency on product, which is product description, finish, and standard price, all relying on product alone. We also have some other dependencies, which are transitive dependencies that we'll talk about later on. But we also have a full dependency, which is good. So we have a full dependency, which is order ID, product ID, and quantity ordered. So we need to remove the partial dependencies to get into the second normal form. So we defined our dependencies. These are all the dependencies that I have, so I defined all of them, but then we only care about partial dependencies. So how do we remove them? We need to make them full dependencies. How do they become full dependencies? If they are in their own table. So we need to make those partial dependencies full dependencies. We already have one full dependency, which is order ID, product ID, and then quantity order. So this is going to become one table. So this full dependency is going to become one table containing 1, 2, and 3 attributes. And then each one of those partial dependencies is going to have its own table. So this is going to be a table, and this is going to be another table as well. So the resulting second normal form is going to be what we have in here. So what we did is we made the partial dependencies become full dependencies by separating them in their own tables. And now if we look in any one of those tables, we do not have any partial dependencies. Now what is next? Next we come up to the third normal form. So the third normal form is when we have the second normal form, we just need to remove the transitive dependency. We just seen the transitive dependency in the previous example, but we will define it now and then we'll visit it again. Now, a transitive dependency is a type of a functional dependency on a non-primary key attribute. So the solution, the non-key determinant with transitive dependency go into a new table. And the non-key determinant becomes the primary key of that new table and stays as a foreign key in the old table. So if we look back at what we had um, the second normal form, and if we look closely, this is already in third normal form, this is already in third normal form, but this is in the second normal form from the previous step. Now why is it in the second normal form? The thing is, customer name and customer address will rely on the customer ID, but in this specific table, customer ID is not yet a primary key. So we have this transitive dependency with those attributes in here. We need to remove the transitive dependency. How do we remove it? As we said, we will create a new table and we will make this the primary key, and it's going to be a foreign key in the previous table, which is the order in here. So what we will have is, as we defined our dependencies in this figure, we will divide this into two tables, one for the order, which is becoming in third normal form now, and one for the customer, which is becoming in third normal form. And as we said, the customer ID, which was the non-key attribute that determines the other non-key attributes, is going to become the primary key, but it's also going to be a foreign key that is stored in the table that we just extracted those attributes from.